Go. This is exciting.
Welcome.
Sick. Welcome back, everybody, to the 4th episode of The Warm-Up. Today I got a very special guest joining me, Maje Saba.
Hello, mate. Don't say very special.
Yeah, no,
because-
you're the specialist guest we've had so far. Oh, no, it's a disaster. Everyone I've had on so far has just kind of been like mates that I've known from school or like my cousin and this and that. But this time I've
Your
got
cousin.
a world-renowned celebrity
Hold on.
in his own studio.
World renowned. I might be renowned in Wollongong.
Yeah, well, that's the whole world to some people.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. I'm a big fish in a very small pond.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that.
Which sometimes I think I struggle with, to be honest with you. But
Oh.
in the very beginning of doing radio in Wollongong, I've got to be honest with you. I was this cocky fucking dude. Oh, sorry. Are you allowed?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was this cocky dude. And
Absolutely not going to get monetized now, but that's fine.
I was being, I'd been in radio in Wollongong for several years, and everybody was like, I'd go out and Maje this and Maje that. Now I virtually don't go anywhere, and I'm like, what do I even do? Like, what do I do? I talk on the radio, and
Yeah.
I make stupid comments. This is my life.
I'd love to talk about that actually because I love listening to, I love watching your Insta stories.
Thanks.
It's so funny, man, of people like calling up. I remember that one the other day about the guy saying, no, you put the cereal before the milk.
Oh, yeah,
the
yeah,
milk
yeah,
before
we were talking about, this is the hard-hitting issues that I talk about on my radio show,
Yeah.
where we talk about putting milk before the cereal, or other people put the cereal before the milk, and I was like, you put the cereal in first, dude. I mean, no one puts milk, then the cereal. The portions are all fucking wrong. They're all over the shop.
An awful argument ensues after that. That's so funny. I love that that's your job.
Well, yeah, I know, but the older you get sometimes, and like I'm in my late 40s now, the older that you get, you sort of question what you've been doing for 20 years. Like, there are so many more people that seem to be doing more beneficial things for the community. And like, it's fine. I love my job. I love what I do.
Yeah.
But, you just sort of question it. I think it's the natural progression in life.
Yeah.
I mean, you could be an architect, and you're questioning what are you doing at 35. It doesn't really matter. But I think you get to a point where you need to sort of be really grateful for what you do, and then you've got to just realize that this is the journey that you've decided to take. I mean, I love doing it.
Yeah,
I still love doing it.
I was gonna say, like, do you get messages from? Surely you've gotten messages from people being like, I love you, Maje. Like,
Oh yeah,
Do
I
you?
get that. I get that all the time.
yeah, well,
I-
there you go. That you made a difference to the community.
Yeah,
right
yeah, I know. I mean, I'll get people. I'll be walking down the beach with Orlando, and people will be like hitting me up, saying, like the other day, people were saying, I love that guy that was on the radio talking about the cereal or the milk first. We're in the middle of a fucking pandemic.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is about to ruin the world.
Yeah.
There's about to be civil war in America, and like people are like, I love that conversation about the milk or the cereal.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Escapism.
No, you're right. Look, I mean, I love the job, and I love that I don't have to always talk about serious things. But yeah, it's just that something. I guess too that I've been doing it for so long.
Yeah.
It's second nature for me to just turn on the microphone
Yeah.
and start talking.
I think
You know.
to most people, it's like such a cool job.
Oh, yeah, don't get me-
Like, I love that you do that.
Oh, people are amazing. People are still like in awe that I fucking do a radio show. But then I'll talk to a doctor who's pulling out some person's gallbladder, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, you're pulling out a gallbladder.
Yeah.
Like you're pulling out some person's organ. And I think sometimes I just sort of put things into perspective.
Yeah.
15 years ago, I was like, I'm this guy on the radio, and I'm making a difference.
Let's talk about that. All right, so let's maybe so far on this podcast, I think I told you before on the phone. Like, people have come on and just talk about like their journey. The first episode, he started in business. The second guy was from Iraq, telling about his story, how he came and to immigrate to Australia and stuff like that. But I didn't really have a plan for this one. right? Like how we spoke about. But I think it would be cool to talk about what you were going to do, and then how you found yourself in radio, and then fuck me, and then where we are today.
This is
stupid
hilarious.
microphone, it's not good.
It's hilarious that it keeps on falling off.
I will fix it.
I think you should need to put it on the edge of the table and not move it.
No, I think because this edge of the table is not like that edge of the table. You got a whole edge. Mine's like, look at that side. That's what mine's like.
Oh.
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
All right.
Yeah, so I think it'd be interesting to talk about, how you got into radio, the cocky years.
Yeah. I started off. I was born and raised in the Shire. Like I'm a Shire boy.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people don't. I'll tell you what. People don't realize that because they're like, what background are you? People always ask me what background I am, and I'll say, well, I don't know. You work it out, and they go, "Oh, are you Greek? Are you Italian? Are you what else do they say? They say, are you Macedonian?"
Yeah.
And then in the end, I'll say, "No, I'm Lebanese."
Yeah.
I'm
like,
of Lebanese.
Oh, no!
I'm of Lebanese background, and then they'll go, "Lebanese? Wow, I didn't realize." Like you know. I had one guy years ago in Wollongong after, like I'd been on the radio for a couple of years, and he won some movie tickets.
Yeah.
And he saw me in the mall, and he was like, "Thanks I won these tickets on the radio show. I just wanted to thank you." And then we started talking, and he goes, "What background are you?" Usual conversation. I go, like, "I'm of Lebanese background," and he goes, "Dude, that's amazing. You speak perfect English."
Yeah.
I always remember that fucking story because
so
obviously,
funny.
the perception sometimes of people that are of Lebanese background is this certain sort of pigeonhole vision of what Lebanese people are like, and it's not like that. I mean, the country's not like that, but we can get into that a little bit later. I started off, I was born and raised in the Shire. My father was a very prominent business person in Kirrawee, which is a suburb in the Shire. He had a supermarket, which they opened before I was born, like in the late 60s. Yeah. And it became the only supermarket that was open 7 days a week. Like there was no.
Oh, that's so cool.
There was no supermarkets. There was no 7-Elevens. Coles and Woolworths used to close at like 5:30 on a Friday.
Are your parents immigrants?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
So my parents have the typical immigrant story.
Yeah.
They came to Australia. My father left Lebanon when it was like the Paris of the East, and it was a beautiful country. But he came to Australia because my uncle Nick had come to Australia. Yeah. And my dad's cousin Michael Curry had come to Australia, and they'd all come to settle in the Shire. Yeah. And people were migrating for this new sort of land and new opportunities. And Dad came to Australia with nothing. Yeah. Like they all did. And they bought this supermarket, and then they still own the property. Like 50
Yeah, it's
something
like my
years.
grandparents.
Yeah.
Exact same story.
It's ridiculous.
Bought a fruit shop in the city, and then they still own the...
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah,
like
so cool.
Like that's why it shits me when people talk about immigrants.
Yeah.
And they go, fucking immigrants are coming to our country and taking our jobs. What jobs are they fucking taking, you moron?
Yeah.
They're working in hospitals doing cleaning jobs that everybody else isn't interested in taking. Yeah. My father started working in Balmain for Lever and Kitchen, shoveling Omo. Yeah. Like he was literally shoveling Omo.
Yeah. Oh, some of the stories I've heard from like immigrants, my grandparents and that are crazy.
Taking jobs? What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, working in like the cornfields and stuff. It's like you're not doing that anyway.
Okay, my wife's brother-in-law, his dad used to work in the cane fields in Cairns. Yeah. In 40 degree, 80% humidity, 40 degree heat. Yeah. And people going, "Oh, you come and take our jobs. Get the fuck out of here." Yeah. So, my father built up this like retail business, was incredibly successful, and I was never. I mean, I wouldn't call. I think I'm smart, but I was never academically inclined while I was at school. I mean, I did the HSC. I went to uni. I dropped out. I kept on going back to uni and TAFE and kept on dropping out because I always knew from the age of 14 that I wanted to work in radio.
Really?
I knew. I knew I wanted to work in radio when I was 14 because I'd be sitting in my dad's car. I remember it vividly. Dad was going out to do something, probably hide some of his fucking cash money or something. And he was like, "Don't touch the radio." And I started because he used to listen to the news channel, and I remember playing with the knobs in the car, and I can remember these 3 songs that I heard, and I remember this guy that I heard on the radio, and then I just was intrigued by the whole concept. So I knew from 14 that I wanted to do radio.
Yeah.
It just took me a while to sort of build up the confidence to get into the business.
I feel like heaps of people that are kind of good at their job and they're kind of ingrained in that and they're doing well and successful in the field that they're in have a similar story to that. They always wanted to do it and then ended up trying somehow not to do it, you know, and then it comes back around eventually where it's just like, this is what I need to do.
I think you go through this period too where you have I think it's called the imposter syndrome.
Yes, I've heard about this. Yeah.
So, like even now, I sort of question myself. You see, I'm successful in Wollongong radio.
Yeah.
I've had the #1 show here for a long time. It's successful.
Yeah.
But if I was to go to Sydney, and I talk to people in Sydney radio or Melbourne radio about being successsul, and they'll go, "Oh yeah, you're successful in Wollongong, but try and make it in Sydney."
Yeah.
And again, it's very subjective. Some people might be happy when I started off in radio, I started off after I graduated. I went back to Macquarie and did the Australian Film, Radio and Television School.
Yeah.
And then I went to Mudgee.
After this, is it?
Yeah, there's a whole story there.
Yeah.
There are people that I still know now in Mudgee that have been there for 38 years. They're happy to be in Mudgee.
Doing what?
Radio.
Right.
Like they're working at that local radio station.
Yeah.
Doing fucking cattle reports.
Yeah.
They're happy doing that. And there was a time when I'd question that sort of that motivation, but now you sort of realize everything. You realize everything. The smarter you get and the older you get.
Yeah.
You do. Like the shit that your parents tell you.
Yeah.
You go, what the fuck are you talking about? How do you even know what you're talking about?
Yeah.
And then you get to a certain age, you go, fuck, dude, my dad was right.
Yeah.
Everything he said was right. Other than the fact that he wanted me to.
That's what I was about to. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Okay, so let's get back to that. The story of the fruit shop. Have we finished it already? See,
well, no. It was my dad had it was a supermarket / fruit shop, deli.
Sorry.
It was everything. It was everything.
And then he wanted you to.
I got 3 younger brothers.
Oh, right.
Mitchell, Johnny, and Ronnie, and they're all they're my younger brothers. And I think Dad had a vision for us to join the business because it was a very successful business.
Yeah. And
like my father would have been happy, like all ethnic parents, to go and do. There was sort of 3 career options that they would have been happy for you to do: lawyer, doctor, maybe a dentist.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah. And then I'm like, I don't want to really go to uni, but I'll go to uni because it'll keep you happy.
Yeah.
So I went to uni, dropped out after 3 months.
What did you study?
I started doing marketing.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I remember just sitting in the class going, what the fuck am I doing here?
Yeah.
And then I dropped out after 3 months. I went overseas on my father's bank account.
Yeah.
To try and find myself. Came back, went to TAFE, worked for my father's supermarket again, or in the deli or whatever. And I did that for a couple of years, intermittently I did some community radio in Sutherland.
Yeah, okay.
Always wanting to get into radio.
Yeah. So you always knew that's what you wanted to do.
I always knew that I had a passion for getting it. I was a very, I wasn't a very confident kid. That's
so hard to imagine.
Well, it's the same with everybody, I think, that does any type of media, really. I mean, I can get up in front of a crowd and do a 5-minute monologue about shit, but you ask me to go to a party, and I'm like, if the party starts at 7:30, I want to get there at 7:25 so I don't walk in the door and there are already people there because I get paranoid that people are looking.
That's so funny.
Not that anyone gives a shit, but that's in my own mind.
Yeah. That's funny.
So, and then I remember saying to my parents, I want to do this radio. I want to do radio. And my father at the time was like, radio, what for? How much money are you going to make in radio?
Yeah.
And my mum, I think, had a coronary. And I think she went to church to try and pray it out of me or something.
Yeah.
No, seriously, I'm not kidding. Mum was like, Well, we used to go to church and learn how to dance and stuff.
Yeah.
Whatever. So I applied for the Australian Film, Radio and Television School, which is this like preeminent school to get into for radio. Failed. And I'm
Really?
like, oh, fuck. I was like 24, I think. I didn't make it past the first round. And then the following year, I applied again. But in the interim period, I was doing community radio.
Yeah.
And they sort of look upon that as, that's favourable. Oh, this guy has a passion. He's doing community radio.
Yeah. What is community radio? I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, community radio is it's sort of...
Just what it
like,
sounds like.
Yeah, it's community radio.
Yeah.
It was out of the Sutherland Hospital.
Yeah, like no one's advertising. Or you making money?
No one's
on that?
advertising. It's no one's. It's there are sponsors. They call them sponsors.
Yeah.
And there's like you'd come on, you'd do a music show, and then there'd be somebody before you talking about fucking crochet for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you'd do your show, and then somebody else would come on after you, and they'd be talking about. They'd do a fucking 1 hour show on the latest Mills and Boon book that they'd read or romance novel.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Okay, so yeah.
And again, here I am criticizing these people, but that was their passion probably.
Yeah.
I shouldn't.
Fair enough. You know what? You're actually right.
It was
We
hilarious.
can't be criticizing that.
No, it was hilarious at the time. I'm going, who the fuck's going to listen to this shit? No one was listening.
Yeah.
No one was listening. Then I got my cousin George Bogus on. So we did a duo show together.
Yeah.
I think within the first hour of being on air, like we were getting phone calls from the management of the station who were all in their 80s.
Yeah.
Like, well, what the hell do you get this? Well, this is rubbish. What are you talking about? And we were just doing it for fun. So I applied for afters that year after doing community radio for a while. And then I got in and I was like, this is brilliant. And like afters
Oh, you loved it?
Yeah, afters was amazing. Like afters is the... it's the Australian Film, Radio and Television School. People go do TV and film and they go on to very successful careers.
Yeah.
Some of them do. So I got into that school and then all this time I was doing afters, and then after that I'd come to the shop and help in the shop, and weekends I'd be working in the shop.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're helping your parents out. And then after I graduated, I went for an interview in Maje.
Yeah.
And
how did you find yourself in Maje? Like, why?
Well, the thing is with radio, you do the course, and you've got to apply your trade in country radio. That was 30 years before that. People would go off and work in Orange and
Yeah.
and Tamworth.
So it's part of the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they'd go to Newcastle, and they go to these bigger cities those towns. They're country towns. And you go on to provincial places like Wollongong, Newcastle, Canberra. Then you go to the big smoke.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember going up to that interview. It was a winter's day, and, and it's the first time I'd been into Maje.
Yeah.
We're driving into Maje, and there was this blanket of fog that just covered the whole town. And I saw a McDonald's in the distance.
Yeah.
And I was like, my brother Mitchell was driving me up, and I'm like, oh, there's a Macca's here. I could be here for a while.
Yeah.
It was on that fucking premise. Anyway,
That's hilarious.
I went to the interview, and it was with Brett Laws, who happens to be John Laws' son.
Okay.
He was the manager of the radio station. And I did the interview, drove all the way back to Sydney. It's 3.5 hour drive.
That's crazy.
And I'm at afters that afternoon, and I got the phone call from the radio station saying, oh, we want to offer you the job in Maje, but there's one condition. We want you to use your middle name. My middle name is Michael, after my dad. And I'm going,
That is hilarious. Maje Saba.
weird. Like, they want me to use Michael. And I thought at the time I thought it was a bit of an insult.
Yeah.
This is only fucking 20 years ago, dude.
Yeah.
So I said, yeah, cool, whatever. Now this was on the AM station.
That's so. At the time, you were like, that's a bit of an insult, but you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I thought, well, I can sustain that. I don't care.
It's
I'll
fine.
use Michael.
Yeah.
And then it was on the AM station.
Yeah.
So the AM station was for it was like a foundation station. It'd been there for fucking 60 years.
Yeah.
Like, I'd get on there. I'd have to do death notices.
Jesus Christ.
Like, a death notice is literally at the top of the hour at, I think, 11 o'clock. You'd have to rattle off the names of people that had died.
Yeah, in the town.
It was
That is
weird.
so sad.
You know, one day I remember I was on air, and there was a cushion,
Yeah.
right, that had fallen off the back of a ute, and it was on the Sydney Road. This is the road which leads out of Mudgee.
Yeah.
And somebody called up and said, "Oh, there's a cushion on the road. You better put it on the radio."
Yeah.
And I'm going, "Oh yeah, there's a cushion on the road. Take it easy." That was the big fucking story
That is
that afternoon.
hilarious. There's a cushion on the road. I thought you were gonna say, then you got a call after. Girls like, yeah, that's my cushion. Thank you
No.
so much, Maje.
That was the big story. And then I'd have to do
Yeah.
cattle reports. you
Yeah.
know. I really had a hard time at that rate
But that's
in Mudgee.
that's like a like a trial by fire sort of thing. Like
Yeah, it was.
You had a good. Have you read that book? This is so annoying because I mentioned it in like the first podcast. It's the only book I'm going to mention ever in this entire podcast series. But have you read Outliers?
Yeah,
By
yeah.
Malcolm Gladwell? Yeah, it reminds
Yeah.
me of that. It's like that Beatles moment where like you were forced to kind of just do this radio.
Dude, I was in Mudgee so we had only the AM station. It was
Yeah.
called 2MG.
Yeah.
And then they were going to get an FM license,
Yeah.
which was more, contemporary and modern. So I worked at the AM station for about a year, and I'm not kidding, maybe once a month I was threatened with the sack because I would never do what I was told.
Yeah.
I was always fucking up.
Yeah.
I had an attitude.
Yeah.
I was in this town where I was 3.5 hours drive from family and friends.
Yeah. I really can't imagine you in Mudgee, man.
But you know what? I stuck it out because
Yeah.
people were expecting me to fail. And when people are expecting you to fail,
Yeah.
it forces you to keep going. I mean, if it was different if I was, picking fruit or something that I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
But I knew that I could be successful in this radio. Ironically, when I got to Mudgee, all the awnings in the town had this name on it: Mufarrej Mall and Mufarrej Town Hall and
Yeah.
fucking Mufarrej Library. And I was at the station. This was about 3 months into my tenure. And I said to the management, I said, who's this Mufarrej guy? And
Yeah.
they go, "Oh, he's the Lord Mayor. He's Lebanese."
Yeah,
And
you're
I'm
like,
going, "Oh,
what?
fuck, can you get me to use
Change my name. Yeah.
His name was George, whatever. But and then I lost 7 kilos in like the first 4 weeks.
What?
Yeah.
Just from like anxiety.
Anxiety. I wasn't eating. I was getting paid really shit money.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I was 25. My younger brother John was 10 years younger than me.
Yeah.
And he was working for my cousin, earning twice
Yeah.
the amount.
Like
I was.
your 3 younger brothers was a doctor, a dentist, and a.
Oh, no,
I'm
but they've all become, they're all successful.
Yeah,
They've
yeah.
got businesses, one's doing a development, whatever.
Yeah.
But, it was, I remember one stage going to, like, when I left that job, I was 28 and I was earning $425 net.
Yeah.
$425 net
Yeah.
after tax. From that $425, I used to pay $55 a week rent.
Yeah.
So, imagine how much you blow that on one night now.
Yeah.
But back then, and even then, it wasn't a lot of money.
Yeah.
I remember I used to have to fill my car up in Sydney
Yeah.
because the petrol in Mudgee was
More
like
expensive.
way more expensive. So
Yeah.
I bought a jerry can.
Yeah.
So I'd fill petrol in Sydney, and then I'd fill the jerry can in Katoomba. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's how
Yeah,
you get
halfway,
up
yeah.
halfway. And because the Katoomba petrol prices were the same price as Sydney,
Yeah.
but less expensive than Mudgee. So I'd fill the jerry can. So then when I was driving around Mudgee, I wouldn't have to fill up petrol
That is
just
hilarious.
to save. I remember once
That's
going.
smart.
Yeah, well, it's smart, but it forces you to, without adversity.
Yeah.
Like if you're, I could have walked into my father's business,
Yeah.
which was making a fuckload of money,
Yeah.
and my dad was like, "You don't pay for it. You just pay me the rent. You just go in there and I'll charge you a rent. Whatever. The property is ours, so you don't have to
Yeah.
pay rent." But that stuff is easy. It's
Yeah.
not easy. It's
Not
hard.
easy, but
it's
yeah.
hard work. But to follow a dream that somebody else might have for you
Yeah.
means that you're going to get to 35, 45, 55. You might still be doing that job, and you've thought to yourself, you know what? I wanted to be a radio announcer at 20, but I've decided to go down this route just because
Yeah.
of the money, and you will be miserable.
100%.
You will be miserable.
Yeah. Well, the
Trust me.
golden, like the the magic happens when someone else's dream is also your dream. Like the dream of your parents happens to also be coincide with your dream, and that's when it really starts to kick off.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
my parents are very generous, very good, kind-hearted,
Yeah.
loving people.
Yeah.
And I would never begrudge them anything. You know, they've made some big sacrifices, dude. Like my
Yeah.
father, for the first 9 years of that business, worked every single day except
Yeah.
Good Friday and Christmas Day. He'd take those 2 days off.
Yeah.
In 9 years,
Yeah.
he had 18 fucking days off.
Yeah, that's insane.
Like, you do that now.
Yeah, that's insane.
Like somebody, like, you can't do that. HR was like, you can't do this. This is just, you can't do this. This
Yeah.
is against
Yeah,
human rights.
Yeah.
But that's what he did.
Yeah.
So like, you know, my father, I don't think my father's ever really asked me about my job. He knows that I'm successful at it,
Yeah.
you know, but it's like, that's just their upbringing. And
Yeah.
my father's now 79,
Yeah.
and he's smart. He worked hard. He
Yeah.
did very well, but they're set in their ways,
Mm.
and they're never going to change. I've got parents that are, friends of mine whose parents are Greek, Italian, whatever. The older generation, it is very rare that they change their mindset.
Why would they?
They don't change it.
Yeah.
They don't change it. So when my father knew that I wanted to do radio, he's like, and they kept on saying to me, like 6 months into my tenure up there, even though I was miserable, they're like, come here, what are you doing up there? In this business, look at this business, it makes a fortune, come and do this.
Yeah.
I mean, I was earning 400
Yeah,
bucks
and
a
you're
week,
like, no.
and I could come down to Sydney and earn 4,000.
Yeah.
You know, but
Yeah.
I stuck it out. I said, no, I don't want to.
Well, that's just called having a passion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I loved it, mate. I loved. Now I go back to Maje because Mudgee's a beautiful town. I don't know if you've been.
No.
Mate, go there for the Food and Wine Festival. It's amazing.
Really?
It's a beautiful town. And
Yeah.
in hindsight now, when I talk about that experience and how I was living in this, I mean, you can't see this room, but like maybe a bigger than average bedroom.
Yeah.
And I was sitting in this house with a tin roof, paying $55 a week rent.
Yeah.
It was fucking boiling hot in summer,
Yeah.
freezing cold in winter.
Yeah.
I had one bit of furniture that I bought from the Salvation Army. It was like a vinyl chair.
Yeah.
And in summer, I remember I'd be just sitting on this vinyl chair, staring at the TV, sitting on a styrofoam box.
Yeah.
And it used to get so hot, I'd be going like this, sliding off the chair.
Yeah.
I'd be sliding because of the sweat from my body.
Yeah.
And then my father
Yeah.
comes up and he goes, "What is this? What are you what are you doing?" It was like I was a fucking ice addict.
Yeah.
This is how my life was then.
Yeah.
And he looked at it and he goes, "You can't live like this."
Mm.
So he went and bought me a futon.
Yeah.
He bought me a futon where it was a bit more comfortable than the chair that I was sitting on. But
That is hilarious.
dude, like even the shower was like disgraceful. I remember I wouldn't shower unless I was wearing thongs. This is a house that I lived in for 3 years.
Yeah, that's absurd.
And I refused to buy any furniture because I knew that if I did, I didn't want to be like it was like laying the foundation.
Yeah, you're like, I'm treading light. Once I make it big, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mate, I got rid of everything when I left. The
Yeah.
only thing I brought back to Sydney was the refrigerator.
Interesting.
Yeah, that I
That's
put on the
hilarious.
back of it.
Yeah.
I can't even remember how I brought that down. So yeah, like when I look, and I met a good friend there that I still know to this day, and he sort of made the experience of Mudgee better. But I used to drink. I turned to fucking
Really?
yeah, because dude.
There's nothing else to do there, really, I guess.
Well, I mean, I guess I wasn't really open to other things. I mean, when I was there, this is only 20 years ago. It was renowned as a a tourist hotspot. They used to say the Range Rover set would come up to Mudgee. But I think I was a bit closed-minded. I remember saying to the station manager, I'm going to be good enough to go from here to either Canberra, Newcastle or Wollongong, and he said no.
Yeah.
And that's what led me to Wollongong. I was in Lithgow, driving through Lithgow one day, and I heard I-98, and I thought to myself, I'm going to work at this radio station. So I sent
Wow.
them a tape,
Yeah.
And then, yeah, they liked it.
Yeah.
But it took me 5 months to get the job here, and then that's how I finally got out of Mudgee.
Wow. So are your parents, sorry to cut in and out, I always do this, but are your
No, it's
parents
fine.
still living in the Shire?
My parents are still living in the
Yeah,
Shire.
that's
They
funny.
don't live in the. So when we had the supermarket, we used to live on top of the
Yeah,
supermarket.
yeah, the
Like
classic.
every other
Yeah.
fucking wog. We used to live on top of the supermarket, and I'd walk down to the bottom, and like on when I'd have my break, I'd walk downstairs and get a milkshake
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
get some Smith's chips, and that's why I was a fat fuck.
That's hilarious.
And then I'd go back upstairs and sit on the telly, and then we moved from there to Karilla, Oyster Bay,
Yeah,
that sort of
okay.
area. Still in the Shire, and
Yeah.
all my family and friends live in the Shire. They're either in Sylvania, Cronulla,
Yeah.
Oyster Bay, Karilla, Kirrawee.
That's funny. I always just assumed you were from Wollongong. Just because,
No.
yeah, that's so funny.
Well, everyone thinks I'm from Wollongong.
I didn't know that until this moment.
Well, because you see, that, dude, at one stage I was living in Clovelly for 10 years.
Yeah.
And working in Wollongong. But the thing with radio, I remember when I was looking at getting into radio, people would say, like, for me to be on air talking about being in Clovelly, it detaches from the audience.
100%.
So you need to be sort of like a little bit relatable.
I actually wasn't sure if you were still living in Sydney when I messaged you.
No, well, I've been back in Wollongong now for about 2 years.
Yeah.
2.5
It's-
years. And I
Dude.
think I want to move back to Sydney.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wollongong is awesome. I mean, it's a lovely place.
It is a lovely place, and I
Yeah.
don't want to take anything away from Wollongong, but it's a bit boring.
I get you.
It's a bit boring.
Yeah.
When the weather's shit, there's really nothing to do in Wollongong.
Yeah.
When the weather's great, you go to the beach, and the beaches are beautiful.
Yeah, like it looks great right now.
Yeah, from here, from the studios at
Yeah.
I-98, we're on top of the hill of Coniston. You can see the ocean, and that's that's where I do my radio
Yeah.
show from right there.
Yeah, that's so cool.
So it's awesome.
Yeah, but like I grew up in Wollongong, right? So like, but I think I still kind of romanticize it because I left Wollongong when I was like 12 or 13.
Yeah, I remember when you guys left.
Yeah. So, and I remember when I left, like I did not want to leave. I was like, I do not want to leave Wollongong. All my friends
Really?
are here. Yeah, I want to go to Edmund Rice. Like all this shit, like all my friends were going there. But then like in retrospect, I'm like, oh, that was probably for the better.
Why did you guys leave Wollongong?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, like, I think I got into school up there. When I don't remember. It's funny because I went to these interviews for school, right?
Yeah.
But when I was in like year 3 or something, I don't remember. I was so
Yeah,
young,
yeah.
And then I think I got in that time. You find out earlier or whatever. And then when it got to year 6, like, my parents knew that I was going to school in Sydney before I did, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then me and my mum moved up when I was 12 to go to school. Mum started a little business up there, hairdressing
right,
salon.
yeah.
Yeah, and then Dad set up a business up there like years later. But yeah, like I was saying, I definitely still kind of romanticize Wollongong because I left at a young age. Like I never, like a lot of people that I went to school with and stuff. They kind of got the group of friends and like I don't know. They all go out in Wollongong and it's a thing. Wollongong's a thing.
Yeah, it is. It's unique like that. But look, I like I said to you before, I'm a big fish in a very small fucking pond.
Yeah.
And
That's true, yeah.
And it's like I'm very grateful for the success that I've had in Wollongong.
Yeah.
But there's an old saying that good is the enemy of great. And
Oh, whoa, that's a really good saying.
yeah,
I've
and
never heard that.
I think I'm responsible. I was complacent.
Mm.
I became lazy. I was
Here?
Getting,
Yeah.
I get paid well. I turn up to work at 1 o'clock. I'm finished by
Best.
6.
Yeah.
I'm working like a 5-hour day, and I'm getting paid. I get paid
Like good
what
money.
somebody would get paid for a 40-hour, 50-hour week.
Yeah.
So that causes you to become complacent.
Yeah.
It does. If I had a huge mortgage and I had debt and I had more aspiration, I probably would have been working in Sydney or something like that. It's only recently that I've started to question, my existence in this industry. That's why, you already know that I've started a podcast.
Yeah, shout it out.
Like everybody else in the fucking world.
No, don't do that.
The
Don't say that on the podcast that I just started.
The Maje Saba podcast, real original name. Like I said to you before we started recording, people would, I'm fine for people to offer criticism. I actually thrive on criticism.
Yeah.
I always have.
Yeah.
When somebody says you're doing a shit thing or you're wasting your time, I go against the grain. So when people said to me, "Oh, why are you doing a podcast?" There's like 300 million of them.
Yeah.
Like I said to you.
Yeah.
I mean, if people stopped doing stuff because people before them were doing it,
Yeah.
no one would do anything.
Yeah.
So people would say, "What's different about your podcast?" Well, the difference is I'm hosting it.
Yeah.
I'm the only one hosting my podcast. I've got my opinion,
Yeah.
my point of view.
Yeah.
You can either listen or don't listen, which is the same attitude I have with my show.
Yeah. And also you have your network and like, you have I was thinking this recently as well when I was putting this together, like the people I've got on so far are just kind of like friends and family, whatever, stuff like that. And it's like maybe these stories like one of my mates from work I had on the second episode and he was talking about his life growing up in Iraq and whatever.
Yeah.
That story like wouldn't be heard if like he's not going on the Joe Rogan Experience.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? But I think his story is such a great one that needs to get out there that it's like why not? Why wouldn't I put it on my podcast and put it out there?
The thing with these type of conversations is that you can't have this conversation. I can't have somebody on my radio show talking for 45 minutes about their existence in this world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas with this podcast that you're doing, which I think you're a natural at this, by the way.
Oh, cheers.
I think you do a really
Really?
good job. Yeah.
That actually means a lot coming from you.
I really do. I think you're a good communicator. I think you've got these conversations that you've got going on. You're right. You're never going to hear them anywhere else, and you're not going to hear them on a commercial radio station.
Also, what's stopping anyone from why wouldn't I have you on the pod? Like what am I? There's nothing to lose.
Yeah, exactly.
What is the problem? Like it's funny. I was trying to explain to my grandparents what a podcast is. You know what I mean? And they're like, "You go on radio," and I was like, "Yeah, it's kind of like radio, but it's on the internet." And they're like, "Oh, people listen." I was like, "Yeah, well, like." They can listen whenever they want. They can just click the thing and they can. It's so funny. Like I was like, it's the internet. It's not available on the internet.
Dude, my parents, my mum's pretty au fait with the internet.
Yeah.
Like she's got Instagram and fucking WhatsApp and Facebook and she'll share these random videos. And what the fuck are you doing? You just share. Like she sent me my mum today.
Yeah.
She's at my auntie Sue's place up in Mount St. Thomas. She sends me a WhatsApp video of this. Fucking pigeons.
That's it?
That's it. It's a slow motion video.
That goes for 3 minutes.
Yeah, of pigeons.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
this is the video from my mum.
that's all right.
She's so like she's an influencer. I don't know what the fuck she is.
Yeah.
But that's funny that you should mention. Trying obviously your grandparents are I think a bit older than my parents, but trying to explain the podcast to your grandparents is like me trying to explain Bitcoin or a podcast to my father. He's like, Bitcoin.
I don't remember what made me say that, but
well, I think it's a conversation that you.
Oh yeah, no. My grandma even said to me, she was like, "Oh, why not?" She didn't really grasp the subject. She's like, "Why not? It costs you nothing, Why not?" And I was like, "Yeah, fuck. I mean, exactly. Why not?"
Yeah, why not? Listen, if you like talking to people, and you've got friends of yours that have got interest, everyone has an interesting story.
Everyone has an interesting story.
Everyone has. I'm telling you now, people. Once you sit down and talk to somebody, everyone has an interesting story, dude. And some people have got stories that they don't even divulge because they don't feel comfortable. But if you can make somebody feel comfortable about their life or about their existence, they open up. It doesn't matter if there's a microphone in front of them.
Exactly. I think it's actually, that's why I find it, I think, first of all, that's why it's a bit more natural today, because we already know each other.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? But, like the ones before as well, just friends and stuff. I think, it makes me feel good that you said I'm, like, a natural, but I have a feeling that if I were to do this with someone that I didn't know, it wouldn't, because you need to make someone comfortable, right?
Yeah, you need to make somebody comfortable.
Yeah.
But part of that is, I think you've got a calm, demeanor. Once you put the mics up, you go, you press play. You don't set it up in a certain way. You don't sort of make them feel confident. Just like
Yeah.
we're just going to have a chat.
Yeah.
It's just a conversation. It's just like a conversation that you're having on the phone with a friend.
Literally.
Same thing.
Yeah. Well, I
Same
think that's
thing.
what, you know how you said like 300,000 people have started a podcast. I think that's why. Because
Yeah.
when I was doing FaceTime or whatever, when I was living in England, I lived in England for a little while, you
Yeah,
know
you
that.
did. I remember. Yeah.
And like the only way I would really communicate with my friends and family and stuff was literally through not even FaceTime, the Facebook video. You know the Facebook video call?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so like all of my conversations was a Facebook video call if I was calling back home or my friends or whatever. And because we didn't get to speak as as often as we did back in the day, I'd have these like 1 hour, 2 hour conversations on FaceTime, and I would always be like, "Oh man, like we should have recorded that. It was a great conversation."
I
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's probably why so many people have podcasts today, because like everyone, I don't know.
Dude, I listen to podcasts a lot now.
I just listen to podcasts.
I listen to a lot of podcasts, and there's a lot of people that are doing a lot of interesting stuff, like your Iraqi friend.
Yeah.
Refugee.
Yeah.
Now he's an architect.
Yeah. Oh, the story is unbelievable.
Yeah, but that's inspirational.
Yeah.
Like there will be people out there that are living in. There's another saying that I love,
Yeah.
and that's living a life of quiet desperation.
Yeah.
There are people out there that are living this life of quiet desperation. They've got this other sort of motivation that they think about, that they want to go out and pursue, but they're stuck in this job. They've got this mortgage, they've got these commitments, and they just don't have the confidence to leave. And then, they just listen to a random podcast about some guy who was a refugee,
Yeah.
and now he's like an architect. And to me, I don't even know the guy, but that in itself is inspirational.
Oh, so many people have messaged me actually after that podcast and being like, "I need to meet this guy."
Yeah, see?
Like, yeah. But yeah, you're right. Imagine how many people out there have like amazing stories that are just waiting to be told.
Hundreds, millions of people.
Yeah, everybody.
And people have got stuff going on in their life that you'll see a person walking down the street and, excuse me, and you wouldn't know anything about that person's life, but they've got an interesting life. The issue is now, social media has painted everybody's life as being this glamorous, fucking super comfortable lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I'm going like, really? Like everybody I follow on social media has got this incredible life, but on the contrary to that, you hear about people just struggling. And I'm fucking all these people living an amazing life. And then you sit down and talk to them off social media, and they're like, "Oh, fuck, dude, it's been tough. I've been gambling money. I've been, depression."
And little do they know that's actually what is going to get the most, or like, you know what I'm saying? If they were just honest about stuff like that, people would actually more genuinely interact. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, people would be more interested in that if you were just to tell the truth.
Yes.
Than they would be if you're just putting this like kind of
facade.
Yeah,
up,
exactly.
Yeah. This is a big experiment. This whole social media
Yeah.
thing. It's an experiment. We've only been doing it for 10 years.
I'm addicted, I think. Are you?
It's funny that you should say that. Lately, I've been really into what's it called?
TikTok.
No, fuck TikTok. I got onto TikTok. Shits me.
Why?
You know why? Because everybody on TikTok.
I've never used it.
No, I don't use it.
Yeah,
but everyone on TikTok is lip syncing to other people's fucking words.
Yeah.
Like it's not like I see this guy. He's got 400,000 followers on TikTok, and all he does is he imitates. He's using words from other people. He just happens to be a very good lip syncer.
Yeah, but is this real? Like, are they
No,
actually
it's-
like?
it's-
I don't think like what does this following even mean on TikTok?
if you're on social media and you're doing funny stuff, you're doing something which is original, and look, I'm no expert, dude, but I'm just saying.
No, but like I said at the beginning, I love your Instagram story. I actually follow it and like watch it and
But
stuff.
The other week I saw somebody on TikTok that was doing all their TikToks were of funny movies, but the words were from Adam Sandler or they were from Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
They're not your fucking words. All you're doing is imitating that. But
Yeah.
I've been addicted lately to Twitter.
Oh no, I've never even stepped
Well,
foot in the
see,
Twitter
I'll
realm.
tell you. Just this is a sidebar. Just recently, I've been interested in Bitcoin,
Yeah,
and I've been interested in about 3 or 4 years. So I follow a lot of people
yeah,
on Twitter about that. And there's a lot of bullshit on social media,
yeah.
but there's a lot of good shit too that you can learn from.
100%. I mean, it's funny that you say that. It's funny when like it's another thing with these podcasts like that I need to learn as well. Like when it goes off track, stick with like let it go off track. I always used to try and bring it back into. But it's funny that you say that about the Twitter. How there's actually good information to be
Yeah.
found on there because I was speaking to a friend of mine who's a data analyst, and he's been working on a side project with I don't know for how much I can say or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But to be honest, I don't know enough anyway to divulge any important information. But like, they've been working on a side project, kind of putting like a few different disciplines together. He's a data scientist. There's some other guy who knows stocks or whatever and anything
Yeah.
like that. And one of these people wrote a paper at university about something to do with Twitter and like how influential or like how influential someone's someone's Twitter is
Yeah.
in terms of like the broader thing. Anyway, these three people have come together and they've created some sort of like algorithm. I don't know, I don't know anything about any of this, but like some sort of algorithm or like program or something that kind of scans Twitter, scans like all these information sources, newspapers and this and that, and then kind of comes up with predictions for the stock market.
Really?
Using like,
Oh, yeah,
you know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
Yeah, yeah.
It's just like how you're getting information about Bitcoin off Twitter. Like they've made this sort of bot thing or whatever,
Yeah, I can understand where. Yeah,
and it's worked.
that's fascinating.
How crazy is that?
Because there's, I guess, with Twitter too, if you're following somebody that has 500,000 followers,
Yeah,
you think about that person. 500,000. Think about somebody like The Rock
yeah.
on Instagram. He's
Like
got like
millions.
250 million people.
That's
dude.
ridiculous.
That's 10 times the population of
Yeah,
Australia.
that's the population of the US.
Yeah.
That's absurd.
Just under.
Yeah.
And they follow him on a social media.
Yeah.
So every time he puts out a tweet or an Instagram,
Yeah,
you know how many millions of people are seeing
that's
that?
absurd.
But that's a really
I've never
interesting
thought
point
about
about
that.
Twitter. That's
Yeah.
an interesting point because it makes sense. If people are chatting about something, there's a lot of interest. And, yeah, if it collates all that information.
Yeah. So it's funny. It's for me, social media is definitely not a tool. It's more of like it has a hint. It's a distraction.
Oh, it's a major fucking
Yeah.
distraction.
But it's interesting that some people have figured out a way to make it a tool for them.
It's a major distraction. Like, I find myself at night. Who watches TV? I mean, I watch Instagram. I'm sorry, I watch Netflix. I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
a good documentary, but I don't watch that much TV unless, like, I was watching that SES or SAS
Yeah, yeah,
Australia
yeah,
recently,
yeah.
which I found interesting.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you're into cars. I don't think you are that much, but I'll go onto YouTube and I start watching 911 stuff,
Yeah.
and I just watch fucking car review after car review, Bugatti, and
Yeah.
a lot of Porsche 911 stuff, and just car reviews. And before I know it, I've killed an hour and a half, 2 hours,
Yeah.
dude.
And
Where I
what-
could
so
have
you-
exercised, I could have sent out emails,
Yeah.
organised another interview, but lost in this world of YouTube.
Yeah. It is insane. I mean, yeah. YouTube for me, like, that's really funny. You know what I thought you were going to say? I thought you were going to say who watches TV, who really watches TV. Because if you're sitting for myself anyway, I know that if I sit in front of a TV
Yeah,
to
I know
watch
what you
something,
say,
I just
yeah.
like flick up my phone and I'm
Yeah.
scrolling. Like, I'm not actually watching. I'm watching it, kind of, but like half of my attention is just into this little device.
Our sort of attention span these days has really been decimated because even in the morning when I get up and I check, I check sort of Bitcoin price and I check gold prices. I check the Sydney Morning Herald.
Yeah.
Um,
That seems healthy to me.
Yeah. I mean, look, it is. But, if I open the Sydney Morning Herald, I'll start reading a story, and then it's very rare that I read the whole story.
Yeah.
Like, I'll get halfway through, and I'm going, yeah, that's enough, move on.
I get it. Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I'm distracted. And I try not to be.
Yeah.
About a month ago, I got onto my where is it on your iPhone when you go to your
Yeah.
screen time?
It is so sad.
Dude, do yourself a favor and don't go to your screen
Yeah,
time.
I've done it before, and I will never do it again.
You think about that and you go, wow, 3 hours today? And you go to the social... I mean, some of it is ABC Kids, where my son is watching, Bluey, which takes up half an hour.
That's a good excuse.
So I feel a bit better about that. But when I go, I've spent, 45 minutes on Instagram, I'm like, what the fuck? I could have done a workout in that time.
Yeah.
So I think you've got to make a conscious effort to not spend too much time on there. I'll put people get. The other thing is people get really caught up with social media and what people say.
Yeah.
It's never affected me, and people find that amazing.
What do you mean? Like in the like negative comments and stuff like that? Yeah.
People ring me up.
Yeah.
And they go, "I hate you, mate.
Yeah.
Fuck, you suck.
Yeah.
You're not funny.
Yeah.
You're ugly. You're
Yeah,
bald.
yeah.
You're hairy."
Yeah.
I get all of
I
this.
know, and you turn it into good content.
And I
'cause
just go, yeah, cool, bro. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
I don't have any hair on my head because I choose to shave it, and I've got a very high level of testosterone. I'm a real man. Or whatever.
Yeah. It's so funny.
I don't have to. I don't. If somebody writes on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, you're not funny.
Yeah.
Fucking good riddance. I just look at that and go, yeah, cool.
Yeah, but also it's like, what?
I can't let that influence me, because if I'm
Yeah.
going to let that affect my way of thinking, forget about it.
That's
You might
really
as well
good.
sit in your room and not fucking move.
That's really good of you, though. I mean, look, obviously,
Yeah.
but like, this podcast has reached like 12 people. So I mean, and they're all my family and friends. So I've never got a negative comment. But like, I don't know if that were to happen. Like, I don't even know. People have been already saying to me, bro, just release and just forget about it.
That's
Yeah.
Release and forget about it.
But I'm interested to see what happens if there is a.
Release and forget about it. And if somebody's got a negative comment, you use that as fuel.
Yeah.
It's fuel to motivate you to either do something better. I mean, like there's nothing wrong with constructive criticism.
Yeah.
But even, I don't even know what constructive criticism means, because sometimes people will give you some kind of constructive criticism, but is it like objective?
Yeah, exactly. Really, it's just constructive criticism is just someone's opinion, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. And
Yeah.
especially when you're doing something which is maybe artistic.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some things which are a fact when it comes to mathematics or physics or
Yeah.
certain things, but when you're doing something which is like an artistic form, it's very subjective.
That seems like that's probably the theme of today's podcast, is like how negative feedback or criticism can be used to like fuel success.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Man. It is a very, very powerful thing. You
Yeah.
know, I've done stand up.
Yes, let's
yeah.
talk. I actually really wanted to talk about that. Let's talk about
Well, I did stand up because I sort of had this aspiration to do it when I was younger, and I never did it.
that. Yeah.
And I wouldn't say that it was a passion.
Yeah.
I mean, it was sort of a natural progression. I was this guy on the radio that some people thought was funny, and I thought to my posts were funny, and I thought, maybe I'll give this stand-up a go.
Yeah.
And, I did amateur nights. I think I did about 10 amateur stand-up nights. And, some of them were a fucking schmozzle.
Yeah, I've heard it's like rough.
Dude, some of it was really bad. I remember one night doing a stand-up gig in Sydney. I turned up and there was literally 7 people in the crowd.
Yeah. You hear those stories on like, other podcasts and stuff. But tell me about it.
There was like 7 people, and I'll never forget it, 7 people in the crowd. I think 5 of them were from England.
Yeah.
And I got up and I did my thing on stage, and it was like really bad. Like I don't even remember what the content was, but I remember that there were a couple of people that went,
Yeah.
and then I walked off stage, and the organizer comes up to me, and he puts his hand on my shoulder, and he goes, "Don't worry, dude, it happens to everybody." Meaning that it was fucking terrible.
Yeah.
And I've done other shows that, there were maybe 30 people in the crowd, and people thought it was funny.
Yeah.
And it worked well. But it was never something that I had a passion for. It was something that I wanted to give a go. I wanted to try. I've hosted events like the Win TV Christmas party.
Yeah.
I do a monologue every year, and
Yeah.
people have always thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
There's no Christmas parties this year because of the
Devastating.
pandemic, so I haven't done it this year. But I often think about it. But to do stand up, you've got to write, and you've got to be really committed to
Yeah.
writing. You need to wake up every morning. You need to have a time, say from 9 till 10 or from 10 till 11 or whatever,
Yeah.
and you need to sit
Yeah.
and you need to write.
Did you do that?
I did that, but
Yeah.
there were times when I wouldn't do that, and you'd know that you had. What I used to do, I used to ring up the clubs where I'd do these amateur nights, saying, "Oh, can I book in for a month from now?"
Yeah.
And then you know that you're going to be on the 10th of
Yeah, yeah.
January at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
So you go, all right, I've got 4 weeks to come up with some content.
Yeah.
Fucking 4 days before you're on
Yeah,
stage, you're
yeah.
coming up with, you're trying to write some shit.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Writing is really important, especially if you want to try and do stand up.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not an expert, fuck, I've
Yeah.
done 10 shows, but you need to sit every day or every second day, and you
Yeah.
need to write. Even though the stuff might not be worthy
Yeah.
of material that you can do in front of a crowd,
Yeah.
you need to get it on paper and you need to commit to it, because writing and it begets more writing, and
Yeah, yeah.
and confidence begets more confidence.
Yeah.
And
There's a famous quote, and I don't know who said it, and I don't know where it's from, but it's essentially like, I sit down in the morning at my computer, not to write, but just in case something happens, or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like, so you're there. I don't know, but like, I was gonna say, it sounds like this is if you were to get into stand up, this is like the perfect job to have, because it's like you're getting confidence in front of a mic, but then you also start work at 1, so you got that time in the morning to write.
to write. Although I've got a 3-year-old kid
That's
at the
true.
moment,
Yeah, I
which
forgot
is,
about that.
he can be quite distracting
Yeah.
at times, which I'm very grateful for.
Yeah,
because
that's awesome.
He's a lot of fun.
So what happened with the stand up? So it just kind of, you did it the 10 times.
Well,
so
I did it 10 times, and then other things got in the way. And to me, when I think about it, it's weird, because I was thinking about it on the drive, because that's another thing I get lost in on YouTube is stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
I think I sort of tried to qualify it by saying that it wasn't a real passion.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I've always had a passion. I have more confidence behind a microphone in a studio by myself,
Yeah.
talking to people one-on-one like this, than I do in any other social situation,
That's
I think.
so interesting.
You know.
Even like sitting inside this booth in front of a microphone, speaking to like thousands of people,
Yeah.
like that, you seem so comfortable doing that.
Well, because you can't see their
Yeah.
expressions.
Yeah.
You can't hear what they're thinking, although they might verbalize it when they ring up.
Yeah.
But you're talking into a microphone, and the confidence is right here in this little
Yeah. That's
in
so
your
cool.
own little world. It's like being in your own social media bubble.
Yeah. How about like, like, do you have like producers spread around,
Well,
and like, how does
so
that work?
if you do the breakfast show here, the breakfast team don't have a producer at the moment, but ordinarily, what you're looking at now, this is the news booth.
Yeah.
So
So
I'd
behind
be-
Maje, there's like a glass kind of window in its
so
own.
that's the news booth.
Yeah.
This is the studio which we're working in now,
Yeah.
or recording this, and then over there is the producer's booth, and then over there's another studio,
Yeah.
which is studio.
So you're
number
kind of
2.
alone in here, but there's also, you're still getting like.
Yeah, there's people walking past. You've got the program director sits there
Yeah.
opposite that window. And there are people often that walk through. Like, they'll bring clients through, and I'll be on air, and the
What,
client.
like in here?
No, like just outside the
All
door
right.
there.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they'll want to come in and meet you and say, "Oh, hi, love the show," or
Wow.
they might say they love the show, but really deep down they're thinking, you're a fuckwit.
Yeah. Well, I guess. I mean, I feel like we spoke about a lot of stuff there.
We've spoken about a lot of. How long have we been speaking?
How long
for?
do you think we've gone for?
An hour.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's an
wow.
hour exactly.
Yeah, beautiful. I mean, look, I'm happy to talk for, well, not 5 hours. That's an exaggeration.
Yeah.
But I really think that, you're good at doing this.
I think that was a good chat. It was fun. I think people will be interested, but I also think we should do it again. if you ever want
absolutely.
to, if you ever, you know.
And the thing is, you said before. I just wanted to say that you said before that you've known me, but it's not like we hang out.
No, no, yeah, yeah.
That's the thing.
Clarify, it, yeah.
No, no, but I mean, I'm saying you were saying that you felt comfortable, but we don't really hang out. But we still had a conversation like two people that have known each other for 10 years.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I was comfortable enough to message you on the Insta, being like, "Hey, man, come on the thing." But like, yeah, you are right.
I was
Like,
impressed when I saw that you were doing one.
oh yeah.
Yeah, I like the artwork. I
Yeah,
like it all.
I literally have done just everything by myself. The artwork was an accident. I did it just for fun one day, ages ago, and then I was like, I need something for this, and it's weird how it all just came together. But
keep doing it, dude.
yeah.
If you like doing it, the only advice I can give you is if you like doing it,
Yeah.
you, Andre,
Yeah.
you like doing it, that's all that fucking
yeah,
matters.
it is so much fun,
That's
and
it.
I want to have you on again when there's actually people listening.
There'll be people
Yeah.
listening.
No, there'll
I'll
be
share
people
this on my social
Yeah,
media.
share it around. There'll be people listening, but I'm just
People
saying,
will
like,
tune
you
in.
know, this was awesome. I think we
Thanks,
should do it
brother.
again. Do you want to plug social media and stuff?
Yeah, you can find me at Maje Saba on Instagram. It's Maje_Saba, MajeSaba, Maje Michael Saba on Facebook, and you can also listen to my podcast, the Maje Saba podcast, episode number 37 or something coming out soon.
Yeah, it's also Michael Saba in
It's
Maje.
in Maje, if you go back to
if
Maje.
you're googling emoji. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. Please follow the warmup.pod on Instagram. If you liked this episode, please just like share it around, like and subscribe, recommend it to your friends. Comment.
Good or bad?
Well, all right.
No, yeah, good or bad.
Yeah, all right. Good or bad. Give me some constructive opinion, criticisms. But yeah, thanks for coming, Maje. Really appreciate it, man.
Thanks, brother. Good luck.
Cheers.